Good evening to all. I am Neil Cameron, Vice Chair of the school board, so I'll run the meeting tonight as Kurt is away. Trying to mix up the seating arrangements a little bit here. Kurt was interested in trying to do that. So, in any case, let's go ahead and start with introductions and then take a run through the agenda.
Jeffrey Glassford, Town of Waltham.
Rich Rathman, Town of Canton.
Lori Childers, Town of Madison.
Chris Guzino, Vergennes.
Kathy Cannon, Business Manager.
George Gardner, Ferrisburg.
Lori Martin, Administrative Assistant.
Neil Cameron from Vergennes.
Stephanie Taylor, Co-Principal.
Great. Thank you. There's a couple of additions to the agenda, late breaking in the action items. There's bond documents that need to be looked at and signed and construction application paperwork as well. Is there anything else that needed to be looked at from the agenda? Okay.
Can I get, is Nancy on the agenda? Did I, for the exit poll?
Ah, I don't see that. That's
Well, I
right.
wondered, maybe I was.
Is
missing it.
Nancy in a position to talk about the exit poll
We planned on it because we were in the minutes.
for tonight?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So I'd entertain a motion to add that in.
Second.
Okay, under educational presentation. Sound good? All in favor? Aye. Okay, minutes from last month. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Any discussion?
I would just note under, sorry, I have to find it.
Doesn't look like Hampton's gonna be here, but I can give you kind of an update.
Under the business manager's report, it's the Freedom of Information Act, not the Freedom Rights Act.
August.
You are correct, sir. Anything else? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving with the edit that Jeff provided?
Aye.
Very good. Minutes are done, passed. Public, one other tweak to the agenda. As I just found out, the Team Endeavor Capstone Project presentation isn't quite ready for us yet, so we're going to hear that in the August meeting instead, right?
Yep.
So we will substitute Nancy instead in the exit poll, which will be definitely interesting to hear about. Public communications. Anybody have anything? Quiet group. Wow. Back to sort of that normalcy that we used to have. Very good. In which case, Nancy, you're firing up the machine. All right, so let's give you a moment. While we are doing that, how about we just move board communications up? Anybody at board communications?
I wanted to commend the staff and administration for another wonderful graduation on Friday. It's really enjoyable to
For me too.
participate.
It was awesome.
Thank you.
As the proud parent of one of the speakers at the commencement, I couldn't agree more. It was fantastic. And I'll also add that I had a chance to attend Mount Abe's on Saturday morning, and so there were some interesting things that they did that we could steal, and there was a few things that we did really well that they could steal. I say that to the camera because they were taking pot shots at the Commodores like crazy during their graduation, right?
Yeah.
Just saying.
I was really surprised that they would be doing that.
I'm gonna forget. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to forget some people, but you know, there's a group of people that really make that happen, and Rose Russet is the coordinator of sort of the graduation effort. Additionally, a whole group of parents, and it changes every year depending on the graduates, take over decorating that gym. And some people, you know, they take days off from work and they do all those flowery things, and so they really make it happen. And there are a lot of, Cookie, you could probably tell me who else is part of all that. I mean, the senior class advisor is,
Marco,
yeah,
Lisa Stearns,
yeah.
a host of people, about 50 people
Yeah,
put together what
yeah,
you saw.
yeah, and they worked all day and for weeks up to that point, making sure it all happens. From making sure the graduation gowns are ordered and they're paid for and they're trying them on and all the and then the academic piece. So it happens, and it's sort of a miracle every year. But it was really lovely.
Oh, it's really well done. If you would entertain the one observation I pulled from Mount Abe that I thought was something we should steal, they had an MC, and it ensured a nice flow.
I've seen that in other buildings too, and yeah, I don't know if that's been past practice or it's just not the way it's done here. But I sort of had that question
Used
too.
to?
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be great to get
yeah.
like the
Someone now
great
we
junior
have the,
that's
yeah.
got the skills or something to do that.
Yeah.
Last MC was about 88, 89.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Should we
no.
start
I've
it back
seen
up?
I've seen-
Sullivan used to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I've seen the principal be in that
yeah,
role
we
at
used to have
times,
the
and
principal do
yeah.
it.
So
Something to think about.
yep, note for next year.
Any other board communications?
Hannah is here in lieu of our usual student, so I don't know if you want to let her.
Are you our new board rep?
No,
Oh.
we're not there yet.
I'm just giving the report on behalf of Tia.
Okay. Well, you're most welcome to either sit there or at the table if you'd like.
Would you prefer that I sat at the table?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Get a chance to be in the hot seat, so to speak. And just, do you mind introducing yourself?
I'm Hannah Hatch. I'm a junior.
Thanks, Hannah.
Current state oratorical champion, state Lions champion, a few other
Didn't we
things.
see your name on the banner that rolled down?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, right on. Any other board communications? No. I've been getting some traffic from some parents of the rowing team with a little bit of discontent about the magnitude of budget reductions to that team. They want to see if they can't talk about how to either fill some of that money in either with school money or private donations or whatnot. So I'm just letting folks know that I'm getting that. Peter, it might come your way at some point for a conversation.
Sure. I mean, do you know what it was? I mean, do you have any questions about what?
I'm not sure it's appropriate to bring it up just yet, or to really get under the hood without just sort of finding out, allowing those parents access to the information so that they can, they can maybe answer their own questions before the board gets into it, so to speak. But I'm just sort of letting you know, some of the students are concerned, some of their parents are concerned, so. Okay, Nancy, you are up.
Well, Hannah's actually going to present. I'm here for other things. She's in my statistics class.
All right.
This is a reference.
Thank you. So Hannah, you're going to present for us?
I guess so, yeah.
All right.
I will fill in at any time needed.
Yeah,
or help.
if you see anything that I'm missing, feel free to, okay, does everyone have a survey in hand?
The floor is yours.
Okay. So we conducted an exit survey at the revote for the budget. That's what you have in front of you, and it's also right here on the screen. The survey that we handed out to people just had those lines to check, but for ease of collecting information, we assigned each one with a letter, just alphabetically down, and we wrote those in on the surveys that you have, and it's also up on the screen. So this is a table of the percent of total voters who responded. So you can see it's split up by towns and then by the total and by whether they voted yes or voted no. And then approximately 38.7% of all voters responded to our survey. And you can see across the board, generally more yes voters responded than no voters.
Yep.
And Vergennes was the only town that had a person sitting at the table with the survey asking people to take it.
Can you explain why that might have made a big difference?
Well, some of the places it wasn't necessarily in a spot where it was really obvious that you were supposed to take the survey, or people were just less likely to take it if you're not being prompted to by someone. But Waltham surprisingly still had a higher rate of response.
We did have one flaw with our survey, and that was because we didn't test it out on someone, and that should be the number one. Because we were so focused on the vote no votes, that if you voted no, please check these. So some people, where there wasn't a person, didn't check anything,
Because they didn't vote.
but they might have written a comment. So at Vergennes, when we were handing them out, we said, no matter what you voted, please give us any input you would like to share.
Yeah.
So Vergennes, I think 71.8% yeses and 33% no's. Definitely heard a voice trying to push them to fill it out.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a bar chart. It's split up by whether they voted yes, no, and there were yes or no, and there were a few surveys that we weren't really sure which way they voted. They either checked both or didn't check either. So we split it up. The red is the no, green is yes, and yellow is questionable. And they're organized by those boxes that are lettered on the surveys. As you can see, most of the reason that people didn't vote for the budget is because they felt that it was too high. And C was our second highest, which is that they don't support the state formula for education property taxes, which I don't know that you guys can really do much about that. But yeah, so then in the following slides, we split it up by town. Same sort of layout, but split up by town. And just a note, the scale on the bottom changes pretty drastically across the town.
So could you go back? Just
How do we do that? Down here somewhere?
There's an arrow there.
I can't really see it.
I think, yep.
No?
Oh.
There we go.
I think you need to go back.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
So just to confirm, the green are voters that were identified as having voted yes, but they responded
yeah,
to
they
these
still
questions.
responded to the questions.
So people who voted yes responded substantially, I don't support the staff cuts required by this budget.
Yes, they did.
They also responded substantially, I don't support the state formula for education property taxes.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to confirm what we were looking at.
Okay, this is Addison. As you can see, the scale is much, much smaller. Yeah, that's hard to see much because there were so few responses, but it follows the same general pattern as the total voters.
I think E showed up a little more.
E did show up a little bit more, yeah. And here's Ferrisburg, also a similar pattern. A lot fewer yes responses, though, because there wasn't someone sitting there asking them to respond either way. And there's Panton. Nobody who voted yes responded in Panton. Well, some of them responded to the survey, but nobody checked the 6 things that we have down the side. And then Vergennes, there were, as you can see, some more yes voters that responded to the survey because there was someone sitting there asking them to. And also noted up here is how many total surveys we got from that town. It's just so that you can, as a reference point, see that. And here's Waltham. We didn't have any question marks in there.
The B and C green response is very consistent.
Yeah,
Yes, it
B
is.
and C for
It
green.
indicates that basically those yes and no voters who were voting because of the cuts, canceling each other out.
Mm-hmm. And so this one, we were particularly interested in B. I don't support the staff cuts required by the budget. So we took out all of the surveys of people that checked B, and we tallied up what other things they checked, and also split this one up by yes and no votes. So you can see that the no's, it's somewhat consistent across A, C, D, and E. Very few people checked F that also checked B. F didn't have a lot across the board, though. And a lot of people
That is good.
Yeah, that is good. A lot of people that voted yes and checked B also checked C, which is I don't support the state formula for education property taxes. I think that's our last slide. Do you have comments?
Do you happen to know how many voters in total voted?
I
I know there were like 475 for the.
Actually,
Surveys were
if we go back to that first, it's on the totals bar chart.
That's the
That was your
survey.
total
Oh yeah, that's the
respondents.
surveys. You're right.
I just wondered. I mean, that's actually 475.
475 is the
Return
surveys we
surveys
got.
is a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but if you go back
And that-
further, you have a percentage
Yeah,
of
that was-
surveys versus
Oh.
voters.
Yep.
To your first slide, and then we could do
Yeah.
the math.
Yeah, 38.7. We did round that, so you won't get an exact number.
So
but
38.7, and that's reflected as 475.
Oh,
So you should be
45, I
able,
wanna say.
right.
Yeah,
right?
you could do
should
that
be
out.
able to divide 475 by 38.7
So
to
call
come
it
up with the
around
total.
1,200.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and Ms. Ambrose is passing out the written comments that we got on the surveys. We typed them all up and separated them by town and whether they voted yes or no again. And I believe those are being passed out to the representatives from each town, the
didn't wanna
town
kill all
corresponding
the
with.
trees, But I figured I could share with you on Google Docs all of these. So they are split by no's and
Do you have any for
yeses. Yeah, if you wanna look at, I've got extras here and then by different towns, so you might wanna know, are you? Yep. And, those are extras by town on the top.
Do you have one for me?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, these are fun.
Oh yeah, there's some interesting ones in there.
Yeah, it's good.
We were-
Get some blood pressure rolling a little
There's
bit.
some positive ones. There's some very negative
Yep.
ones.
Yep.
We were pretty true to what they wrote if we could
Yeah.
read it, and I noticed that one of our typers, I could read pretty much every handwriting. I said after 30 years of teaching,
Yeah,
if I couldn't read
you
their
were
handwriting,
the
I was.
go-to handwriting reader.
And I'd have to hold it a minute, think about what they were trying to say, and put some of the letters together, but, I think Canton, or Waltham, one of them has kind of a code about it. Yeah, I think it's,
I don't know.
about they couldn't read the writing, and I guess they didn't ask me.
We made very few minor punctuation, spelling, grammar corrections too, just for flow of reading them. But their messages are all the same.
So were there any, I mean, as you've passed our respective constituents' comments to us, are there any sort of common themes that you got?
There was a surprisingly large amount of people that felt either way very strongly about Walden. And there were also a lot of comments from the yes voters that were just general approval. There were some general disapproval too. But can you think of any other resounding themes?
Look at the population.
Oh yeah,
Population
teacher-student
and
ratio.
The ratio, a lot about the audit being a little more timely. There were some that were right out in left field, but you'll see those when you come to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we still have a 2-hour block that I was hoping, because this has been a little time consuming.
Uh-huh.
And when we lost the seniors, we lost most of our class, so we had 2 kids and myself.
We're just talking about that.
So we were gonna try and put the themes together with maybe another bar graph
Yeah.
to kind of show how strong.
Yeah, and then we could share that with the members of the board.
That would be really valuable. Was there any product put together that we could actually show the public?
Well, this
This
I can share
PowerPoint,
with
yeah.
you. What was really difficult was we had some papers that checked one thing, and then we had papers that it was written on the back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
all over, so we didn't distinguish that person said more than, commented on 5 areas versus somebody that made 1 comment.
Yeah, yeah, and
So our
these,
numbers don't work for the total number of people that handed in a survey
Yeah.
because we made
Right.
every comment
Right.
noted.
Right.
yeah, and these, the bar charts too really reflect just the people that checked the boxes too. There were a lot of people that said something very similar to what one of those says in a comment, but we didn't count those just for ease of tallying results.
We had a lot from Vergennes and Melissa was actually there the first day we got the ballots. She's from CCV, and we're dual enrollment, so she was observing our class, and it was interesting, because the first thing I said is put a V, an A, and W, so if we have to go back, and we have all the surveys. So
We do,
if
we
you
have all
wanted
of
your
the surveys.
towns, but some of them you won't be able to read, but we pretty much got everything here, and we can double check
Yeah.
that. And we can put it all on one spot, so you could read each town, because I think it is valuable, but we felt for your specific voters that you would want to see that first.
Any other questions or thoughts?
I'm interested, Hannah, and did you appreciate the exercise? Was it?
Yeah,
did
it was
give you
definitely
something?
really interesting as someone who can't vote yet to get an insight into what the community thinks about the school budget, and as a student of the school too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, and Nancy.
You're welcome.
It's great.
Great.
This is
Thank you very much.
excellent information.
I think so too. I mean, I think there's a lot in here, and I kind of feel like it would be neat to be able to either take the PowerPoint or maybe take the PowerPoint with a little bit of interpretive text, a couple bullets for
Yeah.
each slide, and interpret what it means and put it out there so that our citizens can see that, hey, look, our students did this work on
Yeah.
behalf of all of us, so that we have a better understanding of the pulse of the community.
So is there some place where all of the comments are available?
We haven't quite put that together, but we will this week. So
Okay.
we can just, and we'll just have the town labeled and then all the, and we split them up
we
pretty
can
much by
email it.
yes and no, because it's nice to know if they're which way they're voting. So, we haven't put that in one document, we have like 5, so we'll put them all together.
Thanks for taking all the time.
Yeah.
Super excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry, yeah,
One
Jay.
other thought about this, is just something I was thinking about is, because letter F was really low, so people had information. I think often that's part of our challenge is how do we get the information out? So if we're able to do a survey again, I don't want to make it too long, but if there's a way to find out how did they get their information about the budget, so that we know, they're reading the paper, the Facebook, what is it wasn't the phone calls that got made, that made the difference. So just
Right.
something to think about for next
Right.
time.
The interesting point is that the empirical data from the survey do not substantiate several comments I'm reading about how I wasn't able to know about it, So that, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There was one comment about the informational meeting at Front Porch Forum on there. I think it's one of the last ones.
Oh, yeah?
And we did have the flyer that you had mailed out. And so we were kind of like looking, and if we had had maybe a little more time, we might have commented on the comments that could have gotten the information from that.
Yeah, there were definitely a few misinformed comments that didn't necessarily check that they didn't have enough information, but just based on what we knew about the budget, we were like, we're not sure that you know what you're talking about.
Regarding the flyer, I've never received one, so there are still some glitches in the system.
Yeah, what flyer, was this for the second vote?
Yeah.
I didn't receive a flyer, and we didn't receive a phone call.
The phone calls were strategic. It was a teachers association that was selecting folks based on a profile that they wanted to contact as a teachers association. So they weren't calling everybody.
It was people that had voted, parents, and if we had a phone number. And some were from the phone book that were discontinued, or if there wasn't a phone number in there, we couldn't call the person. We didn't have any way to get their phone number other than the phone book. And if they were a parent, then we might have it from the school.
The flyers should have gone out to, or flyers did go out, so if you didn't get one, that's
They
not sure
were
why.
addressed to every address in the 5 towns. I mean, it was one of those general, it goes, so, is that a mail carrier issue? It just missed that one, or 2 or whatever. I got one.
Yeah, I got mine, but we can post-mortem the, as we head into the next budget season, maybe we can do some pre-mortem as opposed to post-mortem and get on top of some of these things. So, Hannah, actually you're up again, and again, thank you so much for that. So, student reports.
Okay, prom was on May 10th at Basin Harbor, and it was a success. Softball are in the playoffs. They have a semifinal game against Fairfax at 4:30 on Wednesday. Graduation was this past Friday. And finals are this week for underclassmen. Track states were this past Saturday. The boys got 6th in the 4x4. The girls got 4th in the 4x4. The boys 4x1 got 2nd. Liam Godfrey got 2nd in the 400. Ali Stearns got 5th in shot put. Chris Castillo got 2nd in the triple jump. Paige Dolan got 6th in the 800, and Alex Kaufman got 6th in the 200. There's a summer kickoff dance barbecue party being hosted by Student Council on Friday, and NHS is participating in Relay for Life on the 20th.
Great.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
And I told her she could leave after that. She's just filling in.
Homework. Ah, next year, you're going to see. This time of year next year is going to be really cool.
I would, since we're on the topic of student representative, I have 3 students that have indicated interest in serving in that role. We 2 have submitted the required paperwork, and I'm waiting for 1 more. So I hope to have a decision by the end of this week or early next week, so that we have someone going in. I would have liked to have gotten it established earlier. It just kind of slipped off my plate, and I saw it happening in the fall this past year, so it occurred to me that that was a late start. So I'll have someone, hope to have someone right for the August meeting and going forward.
Great. Is Tia our senior this year coming up?
She
That's
will
what I
be.
thought.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
So we're looking, it went out to this year's sophomores.
Great.
Just out of curiosity, how will you decide?
Between the 2?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
All I did is I took their paperwork and stuck it in a folder. I haven't even read it, so.
That'll probably be informative.
Yeah, I know. Last year, I looked up the email that we sent out, and it said a committee composed of Ms. Stepp, Ed, and myself will decide. And I know we had 4 candidates, and I don't really remember how it was done. So I'm going to talk to Mrs. Stepp, and we'll figure it out. But right now, it's in a folder on my desk.
Well, you are up if you want to keep going with the principal's report.
Okay. Well, I just came back from the Battleship 8th grade field trip, which was a lot of fun. We took advantage of a mild night with a light mist and a canopy, and many of us slept on the deck of the Battleship. When I use the term sleep very loosely. But it was kind of fun, and the foghorn was blaring, and the lights on the bridge. It was once in a lifetime experience. So it was the 8th grade field trip. We slept on the USS Massachusetts in Fall River in Battleship Cove. It's a World War II era battleship. It was very interesting. And they have a variety of other war. There's a PT boat. There's a Russian some kind of other boat. There's a submarine, and they opened up all the boats and ships for us so we could tour them. They have little displays in each of them, and the battleship is very interesting. It's enormous. It housed 2,300 men during World War II. So to have 80 people running around, and basically we had the run of the entire ship. So kids slept on these sort of suspended cot type hammocks and down in the hold, and food was provided for us. It was catered. So it was very interesting. They had a gentleman, they did a little video presentation, and a gentleman who enlisted at 19 and served his entire duty on that boat during its 4.5 years of commission was there to answer questions, and really brought the whole thing alive to the kids that were interested in that sort of thing. And the students asked some really good questions, and he had a great sense of humor, and really made it real for them. So it was interesting. We do that. I mean, aside from the historical perspective, I'm told that it's a very inexpensive way to house that number of students, and they regularly make the ship available to scout troops and family groups and school groups to sleep in. So there's a historical element, but it's also sort of a cheap floating hotel.
And real comfortable, huh?
Yep, real comfortable. And then we did so the Museum of Science was the first part of it in Boston, and then no field trip is complete without the requisite Six Flags trip on the day home. So we stopped at Agawam and did a few hours at Six Flags, and I got home by 10 o'clock Thursday night. So no incidents. Everybody had a good time, and it's just a lot of fun to be with the kids in that kind of relationship. For me, anyways. I don't get out of the building much, so it was a lot of fun. I didn't know if you wanted an update on the interim principal search during this part of the report.
Sure. I'm sure people would be interested.
Okay, so we have the committee. It's underway. We have 2 students, 2 parents, 2 board members, Neil and George, a guidance counselor, a member of the secretarial staff, a member of the support staff, 2 middle school teachers, 2 high school teachers, and the facilitator for the first part of the screening and initial interview is Joanne Taft-Blakely, principal at Ferrisburg Elementary School. So that's underway. I believe the ratings are happening, and they'll be selecting candidates to interview. We've scheduled interviews to happen Monday the 16th, and they're hoping there's a pool of about 24 candidates, maybe 22 to 22 candidates in the pool, and they are hoping to find 5 to interview. The process will go then, the committee will, from those 5, determine finalists, 2 to 3, to move to a second round of interviews, which I will hold along with Joanne to act as the bridge between the first and the second set. And then we'll do reference checks and hopefully have a candidate to bring to the superintendent as a finalist for that interim position. Anything to add, gentlemen?
No, but I would like to chat with you later.
Okay. Okay.
It was mucky to read through all of that.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of when you might have a candidate?
Well, interviews are the initial interviews on the 16th. I'm hoping to hold second interviews on the 20th. And depending on how many are brought forward, sometimes it's a good idea to do reference checks in between that period for all of them moving forward, and sometimes just the 1 or 2 finalists, depending on interviews. And reference checks can be timely, and sometimes you don't. It doesn't make any sense to do them for someone you're probably not going to want to offer the job to anyways. That's usually not a make or break unless you have 2 very, very tied candidates at that point. So it will depend, but I would say early the week after. July 1st, technically that person goes on board, it comes on board July 1st or as soon after as they can, so that's right around the corner.
So it presents an interesting timing issue because our new superintendent begins July 1st.
Right, and Joanne and I have talked about that, whether or not she can, she's actually more available at the latter part of June, but, offering the positions, creating a contract or getting those things would probably happen after July 1st, but we would have someone in place. I don't anticipate we'd have to move fast to lock someone down, but, that might depend on the candidate too.
Right. So I guess I feel compelled to ask the board, are you all wanting to get an opportunity to meet this person before the superintendent makes a decision? Because if so, we're probably looking at scheduling some sort of a special meet and greet kind of thing, in order to do it, because our next full meeting is not till August.
You. It's my inclination.
My interest is actually in making sure that during the course of the upcoming school year, we have the opportunity to look at our leadership model with the understanding that what you are doing is hiring on an interim basis, and that we have the opportunity to revisit the leadership structure. I think that's really the critical discussion to be had. And a delegated search led to the selection of Stephanie Taylor, and I think that's a pretty good model of the results of a delegated search. So I'm not inclined to bug, but I think there's a broader policy and structural issue that deserves some discussion in the coming year.
Agreed, but I just wanted to make sure to hear from everybody that everyone was okay with, you know, George and I representing us on the search committee and then those decisions being made. Good.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, normally candidates are presented to the public or finalists. Will that not be the case for this since it's interim, or? I'm just curious. Normally.
That, I would say that didn't happen in my case.
Okay.
Are you thinking about the superintendent search?
Possibly, but I feel like principal search, maybe it was in Harrisburg, the candidates came and.
I mean, this is an interim. Remember,
Right,
this is an
so I was
interim
wondering if it's
one-year
interim, you
position.
don't go down that road. Or
And
so.
and just because it's falling in the summer, it's hard to coordinate those
Yeah,
things. Because
I
usually if
understand.
it's in the middle of the year, you can have them come into the schools and have an opportunity there, but.
I would say that, you know, our plan is that the search for the permanent would include, well, first of all, it would include starting at the peak of the, you know, the hiring season for administrators, which is shortly after January.
Right.
So that would allow a timeline where we might have finalists do site visits and that sort of thing. This, you know, the interim is a kind of a different, and this is, you know, very late in the season too, so I would agree that would be a good idea.
And I'm sure you said it, I just didn't hear it. So you have citizen representatives? We have citizen representatives on the search committee or
We have
not?
2 parents.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Yep, good.
Yep.
We'll meet them when we all get together. Anything else?
I don't think so. It's sure it's a mad rush to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You had to come for the trip proposal?
Yeah, I think you're down a little bit.
No, she's actually there with you.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
we were gonna get there, don't
Okay,
worry. I
thought you
wasn't
were
gonna
listed
miss it.
separately, Cookie, yeah.
I had asked Ed at the last meeting about a report on post-graduation plans, and at that point, he wasn't able, but was hoping to be able to do so tonight. I realize Ed's not here. Did he share any of those pearls of wisdom with you?
He did not.
Okay. I would be very interested. I mean, I think that's a very significant report to the board. We've identified as a goal the outcomes that we're hoping for our graduates. Getting that feedback is critically
I would agree.
important. So if that could be on the agenda for August, I would, speaking for myself, I really want to know that
Jeff, can you
information,
clarify a
please.
little bit about what you'd like to see in that report?
I would expect that we would have a recap of the number of our graduates and a breakdown of what their post-graduation plans are.
Okay.
And you determine what the appropriate headings are for that. But, you know, some analysis of that and a little bit of color on that as well. I think it's both important as a reporting function. I think it's also critically important that we have that information to report to the public.
Yeah.
That's the result of their investment. We need to get.
The diplomas of the seniors, he used the number 80% to the.
To college, right?
For
Yeah.
college.
Going on.
Or
Yeah.
going on to some sort of post-high school training, but he used that number
Great.
at
So-
graduation.
It wasn't my intent to put you on the spot, but
You
it
didn't.
was something that.
Yep.
No, that's a great idea, and absolutely
to
to
know.
communicate it. Chris?
It might also want to be something that would help us put it in some perspective, you know, over time. So like, I mean, you could tell me that this many kids are going off to school and this many kids aren't, but if I don't have a reference of, well, what did it look like, you know, before? I mean, not that we need to dig up all kinds of records and try to, you know, make a big mess of it, but some way to put it into some context would be
So,
helpful as well.
The last few years or?
Whatever
5 years?
we know about what might have happened in the
Okay.
last couple of years that's
Sure.
easy to find.
Okay,
Great point.
so comparison rates.
Mm-hmm.
Something that shows a trend.
Mhm.
I just wanted to share something. I think guidance has been tracking that for the last few years.
Yeah.
But in Friday's paper, Middlebury has, the high school has their Tiger newspaper in there, and they actually printed the whole report of what their graduating class was doing and had a list of every student and where they were going and what the percentage was. Their percentage was 73% going on, but it was great to just sort of see it right away and.
Okay. So Cookie, to talk about
Yes,
the trip?
Cookie, Cookie's been taking the history trip for the last few years, and I asked her to go through the process of requesting the time from the board because it is 5 days out of the school year, and I just think it bears a review because it's something that you should know is happening. It's a great trip by all accounts, and it's a wonderful itinerary, but I thought it would, be important to bring it to public.
Also, I think the other parameters the board needs to be aware of is it's the odd year of me having 1 foot in 2 worlds. I still have a senior morning meeting and I'm a senior class advisor, but I'm assuming my new role is a 7th grade teacher. So whereas before it directly impacted the high school schedule, now I am a middle school teacher, which impacts the 7th grade team as well. Stephanie's concern was well noted that it would take me out of the classroom for, I believe the week we settled on, it was going to be 4 days because there was 1 school day that the children were not in session. And Stephanie asked for a future consideration that I consider February break or April break, which I expressed a willingness to do. The parameters of this year's trip are pretty specific because it is the furthest we've gone since 1986 with students. And we're traveling in off-season. So our rates are linked to the time that we travel. You see, that's how we're able to cram so much in as we travel in the in-between times. As with the past proposals to the board, there is a fundraising program in place which has been approved for the following year that involves car washes this summer, bottle drives this summer, some sale items and some dances and things at the American Legion. So for the child whose family is not economically equipped to write the check, the child has the capability of earning the trip. And I ask every parent who pays for their child to go that they set up some form of a payback system so that the child actually performs chores at certain hourly rates so the trip is actually earned. We've found over the years that the trip has much more value and has much more real-world appeal and real-world parameters when the child actually earns the trip themselves. It's from, we're going to go all the way to St. Augustine and then reverse and do Savannah, Charleston, Fort Sumter, Washington, and then home. The main perks this year that are completely different from previous years is for the first time we will be allowed in the White House this time. The ban has been lifted by the president so we can get back in, and we will be sleeping overnight in a tent, God bless me, in Fort Sumter.
Maybe they have a battleship.
I hope so, because Steph don't do camping too well anymore. So you better give me a blow-up mattress for that. I'll bring a blow-up mattress for the battleship when it's my turn to go. So I'm here to answer any questions the board might have, and also to just let you know of the plans to accommodate and not digress the middle school program. Next year I will move the trip to a vacation time, so I will not take away from the middle school children, me being away for 4 days.
Questions?
How many kids usually do go?
Between 30 and 40.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And that it is epic. I cannot tell you. The faces, the eyes, the kids come back time and time and time again. It not only opened eyes, it alters lives. Because history is living, it's breathing, it's a tapestry, they're participating in it. And I'm not gonna take your time with anecdotes, but let's just say it really does the same thing that for what this last trip did, she was explaining, does for the little duffers. You can teach them out of a textbook till you're blue in the face, but if you put the country in front of them and the culture and the people, and you do the Civil War at the Daughters of the American Confederacy Museum, oh yeah, in Charleston, and the ladies take you through the War of Northern Aggression, yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Yep, and talk to.
More of Yankee arrogance.
Yes, and talk to the boys about the differences between ladies having a husband and having a gentleman friend, and what propriety allows and does not allow. Yeah, it's quite an experience. So we already have adults out the wazoo, because word is getting out that this is the last of the Southern Swings, because we will not be able to redo this trip during February break.
Just because of the cost?
No, it just doesn't fit. It's too cold. You know, March, we're risking it as it is. We did this swing once in January, and even the peach trees had given up in Georgia. It was too cold. So, you know, when it's -15 in front of the Washington Monument and you're getting blown across the thing with the flags, it's time to. So this will be the last Southern Swing. We will focus on DC and New York City combined for the shorter trips in the February breaks. So if you have any questions, I'm here to.
And just so I'm clear, the reason we're changing it is because you're now in the middle school and that's too much time for you to be away?
I guess so, yes, that's what was presented to me. And also the concern perhaps that it is academic time that's being missed from the other classes. I mean, I can present a really good dog and pony show about all their learning while they're gone, but I'm not gonna buck the system. Okay. You know what I mean? We're allowed to go. I appreciate the opportunity to take Vergennes children on an epic voyage, so to speak, and if the powers that be say I need to do it between here and here, well, then that's what I'll do.
Okay. Are there any other trips in the school that are anything like this?
There's the French trip, there's the Spanish trip, there are church missions that go locally. This is the only history-based one of its type.
So there are other trips that take the kids out.
Germany.
The German trip.
Which was huge this year.
French trip, yeah. Band has their adjudication trips every 2 years. So this year there will actually be a band trip as well on the same year but different month.
There hasn't been a French trip for a while, right?
It could be, yeah. I chaperoned one a decade ago, I think, but yeah.
Quite a while.
You know, Cookie will be our social studies teacher on Team Endeavor. Next year, Team Endeavor will pick up the 7th grade. The following year, Team Endeavor will be involved in Capstone as well, and that March is, you know, we wrapped up Capstone at the end of May pretty much with some presentations still lingering into this month, but March is when, you know, if I look at this year's calendar, the kids are doing the research in the writing unit. It really takes the effort of all 4 team members to do that. And, you know, in looking at it, it was part of a class, and I mean, there's no doubt there's a educational component. In schools in which I've worked previously, most of these trips happened around a vacation. There may be a day or two outside on one side or the other of a vacation, but it didn't impact students out that were pulling from all different classes adversely with 5 days, plus taking an instructor or 2 instructors, because Pam will go with you. Any other staff from the? No. Yeah, so it's a lot of time, it's a lot of personnel time out of the classroom that way, in a way that's not directly connected to any one class. So I suggested if they could schedule it over a February vacation, it lessens the impact on everybody, especially her students. In the 7th grade, you know, she teaches all those students every single day. So it seemed like a request that could, you know, I asked her to look into doing it, but next year it will be in March.
So I'm trying to figure out why this in particular is being, I don't want to say targeted, but that's the only thing I can think of. Is it because it's not connected to a class? Because the French trip and the band trip, those are band members, those are French students, those are German students.
Yeah,
These are history students, right?
but they
Grade
don't
seven.
they don't necessarily have to be history students, you know? I mean, every student takes history at some point here, US history, but it's not connected to the class.
As I
so-
said, I don't professionally agree with Stephanie on it, but I'm, you know, you tell me the dates and I'm gonna go. Do you see what I mean? And if you need me to go in February, I'll go in February. You need to go in March. It's not gonna lessen the impact for these children. Do you see what I mean? Seeing their country and being exposed to their heritage. My number one function at this school is to link children to being an active democratic citizen. That's my function. It's been my function since day one. So this is one avenue for doing that for some is life altering. I mean, out of the small group we took this time, I had 10 who got stuck in a revolving door because they didn't know what one was. You know, you talk about aha moments. Let's start with sidewalk etiquette and move forward. So, you know, I'm watching them in the revolving door and they're not joking. They're panicked. So, you know, it comes down to, as you change administrations, as you change, VUHS is at a turning point, okay? The old regime here is stepping back. There's less and less of us. So the way things have been done are now being reevaluated and looked at, and the new board and the new direction is gonna be how you take it. I just wanna travel for the next 2 or 3 years as long as I'm still here, so pick your month, pick your dates, and as long as you give me your blessing, y'all are gonna go and they're gonna have a hell of a good time. And they're gonna learn a lot, so that's pretty much my take on it. It's not a battle I choose to fight over whether it's March or April or February.
So I think we should, do we need an approval on this? We do, okay. So in which case I'll entertain a motion to approve the trip as proposed. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, really.
We'll bring you back a Bubba Gump shrimp shirt.
And I just want to say, Lori, I think what I'm hearing is just, with your role change, that, you know, there's sort of, they're not, growing pains isn't the right word, but there'll be some, you know, change, and
let's
got to
be
get
honest,
kind of used to
in
that.
support of Stephanie too. My expertise is public speaking. My expertise is presentation. So if that's the month the little duffers are learning how to talk in public,
You need to be there.
I need to be there. Do you see what I mean? So, you know, and I can bring to bear the power of the older children to come down and help coach. So I absolutely get the point, and I never want to go away from what my function here is, being entrusted to teach your children. And that's the bottom line, but road trips are my specialty. So thank you
Well,
very
thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Do we have a superintendent's report tonight? I do not see a superintendent.
Executive assistant should be able to give a report.
School's winding down.
We have a new superintendent coming?
All contracts are out to all teachers and support staff, because the teacher's contract agreement was ratified.
Okay.
And they received those today.
Do we actually have yet a signed contract with the new superintendent?
Yes.
That's something that I wasn't getting a warm fuzzy about.
Well, we did that a long time ago.
It took, my understanding is it took a little bit of back and forth between Kurt and Joanne to get it dialed in. I think the language of Tom's contract was a little outdated with respect to how things are done now. That's what I heard.
And there was just a lot of timing issues of being able to get together with each other to do what they needed to do, so. But, no, that's about it.
You can put yourself down as having given a good report.
Oh, thank you. I'll put it on my time card too.
There you go.
And I'm sure,
An appropriate time to ask about the contract?
about the teacher's contract? By all means.
I'm not aware of the time period that this contract is
Oh, okay.
related to.
Yeah, okay. I presented the results of the contract to the district board,
Which I missed that meeting.
and this was last week.
Okay. I could go to the minutes.
So
probably.
the parameters
Okay.
of the contract, it's all voted out now, so it's perfectly open, is 2% and a step each year, 3 years, and then 87.5% on the copay.
Not this year, the second year of the contract.
Thank you.
3-year contract, did you say that?
I did say
Right,
that, yeah.
and it's starting
Which-
beginning
This year coming up.
July, this
Yeah.
July.
Yeah. And I think it represents a very fair contract, and it represents a contract we can plan around. You know, we have a 3-year horizon with which we can work now, as opposed to having to get back into this, you know, in a year or a year and a half.
We had less than 3-year contracts in the past?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah, we
gosh.
did. I mean, the last contract was a 2-year, the one before also, correct?
So,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
and it has reopener language for the Health Insurance Affordable Care Act.
Right.
Oh.
Right, so if VHI, which is the main vehicle for providing health insurance, should go away, we're not able to offer it in the way that we do now, then there's a reopener for that specific component of the contract to get together and figure out what are we gonna do. So I should have come prepared to speak to that. I was the lead negotiator for the district board, along with Kurt on that.
And Michelle.
Right, no, I'm saying
you're
the
the
lead,
lead.
I was the lead guy, so, yeah.
Is the 87% down from 100? That
Oh.
87% copay, is that what you said?
It goes 87, we pay 87, is it 88 now? So we pay 88, and that's going down to 87.5 after a year elapses. Again, sorry, all I would have had to do is take the piece of paper out and refresh myself, but I didn't.
And
Take
one
a
last
moment to
question,
do
I
that.
think, I hope it's last anyway, is, do we have an impact on the 2014-15 budget?
The
That
budget
isn't
that we just
taken-
moved,
I
yeah,
mean,
well,
like-
that's the thing, I mean, we knew how much money we had to work with within that budget, and we made sure that we were within the budget.
There was money in the budget, in all budgets.
Okay.
We made sure that we had that. In fact, that was,
You didn't,
that
you
was a
were very
big
conservative in your
That was a
estimates.
conversation
Good.
amongst during, you know, the caucus time.
Good,
We
thank you.
gotta make sure that we fit this, and so,
Okay,
yeah.
great, thank you.
And that's a very good question. It's very fair, obviously.
Thank you.
Any other questions the business manager can handle during her report?
So, current projection.
Thank you.
I apologize, when I was copying them, I went in to pick them up and the copier needed toner, so it shut me out from making lots of extra copies. So, this is as of today, so this includes the bills that we'll be approving in a little while. So as of now, I'm projecting that our total income will be 10,225,000, which is pretty close to the 10,239,000 that was budgeted. We will be over budget, thank goodness, on special ed reimbursement. Everything else is pretty much in line with the budget. So, education fund, we are still owed the last installment from Vergennes and Ferrisburg, and that will be in a few weeks. And the rest of this will come after June 30th. The expenditures, we've paid to date $9,909,000. We've encumbered $677,000, which at this point is mostly teacher salaries for July and August. The same with benefits, the 2 months of benefits, that again is mostly health insurance, dental, it's mostly benefits for July and August.
So we book.
August is in this year's.
So the teachers are paid, they are paid out from the last week of, so September through August.
Okay.
Right, so the teacher, I was gonna ask the same question, Chris, so I'll just frame it slightly differently, is we pay the teacher's contract, the full
Year-
cycle of
year-round.
it in that fiscal year. So we have to book the last 2 months for the closeout at the end of June.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yes. Now, a teacher may request to be paid out before June 30th. They may request that they don't want to be paid out in July and August, and we pay them out a lump sum before the end of June.
Okay.
Some districts pay out everybody in June, and so they don't have any accruals over the
Right.
summer. We don't do that.
But we book the,
We
we
book
book it
the
as a
liability.
contract year
Yeah.
in that fiscal year.
Right, so we will book the liability for
Right.
that, for the salaries and benefits, and that's just teachers.
So we don't do the same thing with our support staff then?
Well, most of the support staff is hourly.
Okay.
Right. And then there's some support staff that work year-round, that, for instance, custodial staff, their contracts run from July 1 to June 30th. So they're not, their benefits or theirs are not included in the accrual because their basis is the fiscal year.
Okay.
Okay.
So how is the deficit number comparing to the one from last?
Well, it's grown.
It's up by over 100.
So, last month it was 449,000. So it's up by 100,000. If we turn the page and look at, the actual categories as they stand right now. So instructional programs, even though at this point we are under budget by $54,000, the bulk of that benefit accrual and the salary accrual will occur in that line item. So the bulk of the
687.
encumbered, the 677 and the 2 months of benefits, the bulk of that will hit that line item. I mean, some of it will affect special ed, but the bulk of it will affect instructional programs. I mean, some of it will, will affect pupil support, a small amount instructional staff support. So that's library, instructional staff support is library. So I would anticipate, pretty much every category, most categories will be over budget next time we look at this.
Now, you said back here that we were getting extra reimbursement on special ed, but here it shows that we're still traveling over 400,000 in the
Right,
hole.
so this is the expense side of that only.
Mhm.
So as of now, we have overspent our special ed by $431,000. So so we are seeing the I don't want to say the benefit of that, but we are seeing additional special ed reimbursement because of that.
Mm-hmm.
When we prepared the budget for FY14, we adjusted special ed downward, but we did not impact revenues.
Mhm.
So the full effect of this overrun is not going to be seen as additional revenues, just a portion of it. Probably that's not very clear.
60% of it.
So when we were working on the budget for FY14, we reduced special education costs to bring our budget down a little bit, bring the increase down.
Remember.
Okay, but when we did that, we did not then in turn adjust revenues. So that
Really?
the
We
full
didn't.
impact of this, the additional special ed costs, we had already accounted for some of that in revenue. That's what I'm trying to say. So even the
Yeah, I
revenues
follow where
will
you're
be
going.
over budget by some,
Mhm.
but not in direct correlation to those additional costs.
Okay,
Okay?
I follow that.
Okay. So if we turn the page and look at the balance sheet,
Before
Okay,
we
yep,
do, I just
yep.
want to kind of catch up. So I'm looking at the May 12th version of this,
Yes,
which was showing a forecasted deficit of 785.
so remember, I had you write this up, I had forgotten about
Yep.
something. So, the, revenues actually were adjusted to be total 10,202,002.
202?
Because
Okay.
we had forgotten the technical school, I had forgotten the technical
Okay,
school.
that went up above. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
And so then that meant that the deficit was then 449, 241.
Okay. So the difference of the 100,000, or maybe I need to ask my question this way. I think what's missing for me is a column here that's forecast. You with me? In other words, we should be able to look at not only what's actual and what's budget, we should be looking at a forecast to complete so that we're forecasting what the result is supposed to be at the end of the year. Because to have $100,000 swing within the course of a month at the end of the year doesn't compute for me. How could we not have known that?
So I'm forecasting, I mean, I have this little list here, I mean, and this is what I know. There's a lot about what goes on here for expenses that I don't know about. So, for instance, there are bills in here about building maintenance. I mean, I don't know specifically, and I'm not informed specifically, not that I need to be, you know, lawnmower maintenance, elevator, some repairs that were made. I mean, some, you know, another Walden field trip, other field trips. I mean, so there can be an estimate, can be estimates of that, but I don't know specifically. Okay, I need to estimate the amount of the Walden trip. I mean, those things are not on my mind.
So is there a process by which if a department is seeking to exceed its budgeted expenditures, there's advance approval required?
There is not that process in place. And I mean,
Why not?
That's the process that we need to talk about, because we can't be in a position where bills just show up that have to be paid. That doesn't lead to accountability. So maybe the trip doesn't happen, and maybe the repair has to wait. But, you know, to be at the end of the year and have that kind of swing of 25%, I'm not saying this to you, I'm saying this to all of us.
I know.
It's not acceptable.
And
It's not acceptable.
And maybe maybe that's a role of the finance committee.
But there needs to be a better process.
I definitely agree with you. You've got to have a control on this. We've got a budget, we're working on a budget, and nobody, and I say nobody, should have the authority to unilaterally exceed their budget in the last quarter of the year. I mean, they have to talk to somebody else and get approval. Otherwise, you end up in the problem that we've got.
So just comparing this little actual spreadsheet from this month, last month to this month, you know, special ed that does have the brunt of the increase. So last month, our difference in special ed, we were over budget 248,000, and this month we're over budget 431,000.
But
which 60% will come back, which gives you much of your extra 100.
But looking at the expenses in isolation.
I also am having a hard time with piggybacking off of what Jeff said, which is on this second page, the budget is for the entire year, the actual is for not the entire year. So this difference column doesn't give us any information, really. I mean, if we took the
cost to date, we need another column.
I don't know the information.
Right, I
to
get that,
round out
I get
the
that,
year.
I
don't
totally
know.
get that.
I mean,
I get that.
I'm ignorant on this, and I'm trying to clarify for myself here. Now, the actual is what is spent as of today.
Today.
So the difference that you're getting is what is from what was budgeted to what is actually spent as a record today.
As of today.
Okay.
So,
So
what,
there should be some, as gentleman here has mentioned, there should be another a column here saying what he said.
Yeah, so
But there's no
fundamentally,
information.
this sheet right here, page 2 of our packet, needs to have the best that you have it. And this isn't, you're not gonna do it tonight, but this is kind of the direction we need to go, I think. The best to you, that you have it, the components of these things that fit by the budget category in here, to allow us to see sort of that forecast.
right,
And then, you know, I mean, I can understand, we know what the staff salaries are gonna be, and we knew what they were to start with. Therefore, there's something else in there. And that's what we would therefore
Right,
become aware of what needs to control.
right. And, I mean, and then the other problem, you know, is that I get this, you know, bills today weren't posted until 5 o'clock. So I had 45 minutes to
Update that?
update this. And try to figure out, okay, what do I know that's not in here?
So-
What do I know about that's
And
not
you
in
do this,
here?
you're responsible for this for every building
Mhm.
in the district. So, Stephanie, is there someone in the building that's sort of the budget overlord? Is that you? Is that Ed?
Well, we have you know, depending on the type of thing, we have a budget process, a expenditure process where if a teacher needs to purchase something, you know, they go through a requisition process. We made an announcement, you know, a number of months ago that the budget is frozen and we're not gonna honor any of those. That doesn't mean that there are some things that have to be spent, you know, when they did the dissection unit, their unit required chicken parts, so we knew that I would still get a request for $100 in chicken parts or whatever it was, and then they knew, you know, there's some things that are so embedded in our curriculum that we have to allow that to happen. You know, if you look at the line item, there's still money under supplies or whatever the line item, and you do that. There are other areas, you know, I would say a music trip. We still approve the buses to go out on a music field trip because it's integral to that program. In spite of a budget freeze, we know that there are going to be these needs. Other areas, you know, building and grounds is a little murkier. I mean, if something breaks and needs to be repaired, it's, you know, the assumption is it needs to be repaired right now, and we get an invoice and it goes up to central office and it gets paid. Most of the classroom purchases go through that approval process, so we know ahead of time. The stuff that, you know, would be similar to the types of repairs you do on your home, some you can budget for, some you plan for, and some, gee, if the roof starts leaking, I gotta get a roofer.
Well, yeah.
And furnace, mechanicals like that are all fairly, you know, of emergency nature, so they need to be attended to. I would say that most of the spending within the classroom in the school has stopped back in January to most, in most cases, at least in those areas that I have oversight of.
Except for special ed.
Well,
Again,
that's
not,
that's
yeah.
not discretionary, right?
Right, you know.
Let me just clarify with the special ed costs. These are costs that we probably, if somebody had some time, we probably could project, yes? I mean, these are not new costs. These are,
You know,
is that a?
there are legal elements around, and requirements around special ed. If it is, suggested that a student needs to be tested for special ed and could be found eligible, we have a certain time period, it's like 30 days or something, that we have to do the testing. Whether or not that student was on a horizon for needing special ed services at all.
Okay,
If
so
a
those
parent
might be
comes
new
to us, if a teacher suggests that, that, you know, gee, have we ever considered testing the student for special ed services where they fall into continuum? We do. That testing's like $2,500.
Well.
We have no control over that, and there's $2,500 or $18 or whatever it is. That goes on all through the year.
I think what you're hearing is a consensus that we want to have a reporting system that provides more warning, that sends a message to everybody in the building that accountability is an important factor for all of us. I think we understand that we have legal obligations. We understand we have stewardship obligations with respect to equipment and the building. We need to be able to then understand where those differences are. So it's hard for me to believe that going on an anticipated field trip caused a budget overage. I'm assuming that that trip was budgeted. So that's not the area that you look to say you can't do that. But if something wasn't anticipated and it is discretionary, that is the culture that we need to move to. If it's discretionary and it wasn't budgeted and we're running over budget, the answer needs to be no, and we need to have a system in place that allows us to respond timely, and that's the piece that's unclear. I think we understand our legal obligations on the special ed piece, but then we need reporting that makes that jump out at us so it's clear, oh, got it, that's what happened. We're not at a point where we have that clarity from a reporting perspective. So it's a work in progress. I think we're all trying to head in the same direction. The intent is to be mutually supportive. It's not about finding fault. It's to give us all the information to do better and to be able to report to the public that pays the bills that we're doing better. Enough said.
Lori, I've got a question for you. So any thought about firing up the financial committee, or have you guys already met?
No, none of that. We would have gotten a warning. No, we haven't. I've been out of town, so that's been tough. But Chris and I had dinner the other night, and he gave me some really good ideas on moving forward. And I'm considering doing a July meeting, but I'm also hesitant about doing a July meeting. I take any feedback anybody's interested in about a July meeting.
I just think it would be valuable, in consideration of this conversation, to think about what options might be out there. And I know that, the drumbeat for getting that management letter in the audit is going to increase in volume. We already chatted before the meeting, but, it'd be good to know where that's at, because people will want to see it. It's in these comments from the survey.
Right, right.
And I'm not, no pressure by me to you, but I'm just sort of asking.
Yeah, it's in the process. It's in the process. And does anybody have an opinion about a July meeting? Anybody?
Do we require a board meeting, or is this a committee?
It's a committee meeting. No.
I would suggest, to the extent there's energy and enthusiasm to be able to focus, please do so. If you want support from the board, if you want, to invite anybody else, please do so. I think that's critical that we try to make some progress.
And does any of the audience have an opinion on July meeting? You think it's fine? Okay.
Sounds timely.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's good feedback. You're okay with that too?
Lori, I guess I would like to clarify, are you looking for administrator attendance at these meetings, or, would an administrative
The
serve
first
as a liaison?
meeting, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you. The first meeting is to set up the structure. So I would suspect that you don't necessarily have to be at the first meeting. It might be helpful, but the structure of the committee itself, what its charge is, and how often it plans on meeting, and who's going to be voting members, that will be all decided at the first meeting.
Well, speaking as the administrator, I'd like to attend, but July is also when, if I'm going to take some vacation, it'll be during July. So as much notice as possible, and I know around the 17th I'll be in Idaho, so if it's that week, I will not be in attendance. So.
Okay.
But any other time of the month, I should be able to be available.
And George, you had just said that you were interested in the committee? Okay, do you have any dates that I have to block out for July?
Kathy, you had a question?
Talking an evening meeting?
Yeah.
Just a status on it. No change. We're trying to finish up the other schools. They all have to be released at the same time.
So we saw our balance sheets last month, and they indicated no change to the fund balances, right? That's, I got that right, Lori?
Yes.
So once that's all wrapped up, it's really the management letter and the bound report, but it's the management letter that gives us that clean audit status.
So that actually was a question I had for you. You probably got the email from Jesse. So but he's saying that they're waiting for information to wrap up the 2013. This is for the other schools? Is that what he's waiting?
Everything has to happen at the same time, and the SU. So
And this is all through you? It all funnels through you?
Yes, but I wrote a job description today.
Did?
It got posted today. Got posted today.
And it got posted?
Yes.
Yay. How many hours?
How much are we paying for?
0.5.
Only 0.5. Okay.
That's a start.
Okay.
I think Tom told me 0.5 the first year, and then thinking about full-time the second year.
So is that in our component supervisory union budget?
So we have an employee that is mostly works 40% in Medicaid, but we have not yet shifted her salary to be paid for by Medicaid, which is allowable. So it's that portion of her salary and benefits that will pay for the bulk of the new hire.
Okay.
Do you have a?
Yeah, what position are we talking about?
To help Kathy, so that the audits and a lot of other things could get out of that funnel. That she's the.
So it's a half-time bookkeeping position. I'm actually calling it a financial, what am I calling it? Financial assistant. So it's a little higher than a bookkeeper. I did some research about what other job titles are at other supervisory unions, and that sort of seems to be the title.
We've had a discussion, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've had a discussion in a previous meeting, I think it was the supervisory union meeting.
Probably where that would be decided.
That there was some help, but that person has been moved to doing some other stuff, and she never recovered the hours. And so this is to try to recover that to answer questions like the audit.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah.
you know, you start talking about it, and it's kind of like if you haven't been in on the
I actually wasn't aware either, but, you know, I think
conversation.
that's why I asked the question about the finances, because that's how it impacts on our work here, is if the finances are there to support it, obviously there's a need for the work, there's no question
There
about
was
that.
no revision to the supervisory union budget to accommodate the hiring of a half-time assistant.
Right.
So the idea is it'll fit in the budget somehow.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
Great.
It's already
Great.
figured out.
Great, that's good news.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry, Kathy,
that's
I
okay.
forget that
That's
not everybody knows everything.
That's okay.
So, are there any other questions on the balance sheet before you get to whatever else you want to present, if
Right,
there
so
are
I
other
just kind
pieces?
of wanted to point a few things out in the computer printouts. So on the balance sheet on page 1, so I just would like to point out that our cash balance, the very first item there is $543,000.
We have 677 due in payables.
No, accounts payable is $2,108,000, which includes the repayment of our tax anticipation note of $1,850,000. So looking at the first page there, we are looking to receive another $687,000 in tax payments, plus we have our deficit reduction note that is coming in. So we will still be short. Million. It will be close. We'll probably start to look at maybe holding some checks, only paying what needs to be paid, just to see how we're going to get to the end. And we also have one more payroll coming up June 19th. So this deficit, you know, starts to become a real problem, because because it affects cash flow.
That's why we moved the deficit note.
Right, so, and this, right, and this is, but this is an additional deficit on, because that was the deficit from last year.
Yeah, see, we're accruing a new deficit that we're now gonna have to deal with in the next budget.
Yes.
But our budget process is changing, so we will stop having to do that, because we're gonna
agree with
form
that.
our budget on expenses rather than the past budget, right?
Some of both, some of each. We have to use historical, but then with what we need, so yes.
Right, was described to our board the cash flow issue created by the prior year deficit.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So,
So now there's also a cash flow issue created by the current year deficit. So what usually happens is that, the SU, that the SU would lend money to a school. We do have some funds, not very much, but we would have some that we would loan to, the high school to meet its year-end obligations, if it's needed. All right, enough of that. Let's go to, and then, looking at the budget to actual, I mean, you know, we can scan down through everything and see the items that are over budget and under budget. But I guess I'm not going to go into that detail.
are there any pieces that you want to specifically call out? I mean, you mentioned
Okay,
music
well,
field
I'll
trip,
call
so I
out a
looked, and you
few.
mentioned the Walden field trip, and I looked, and I saw the Walden field trip was over by $3 grand.
Yeah.
I see music is under by like $500, I haven't spent anything.
Just
So-
throwing them out as, you know, that we would approve
Yeah,
the
I mean, those
bus
are
to
some
go on
things
that trip
that
because-
just, you know, that just called out to me. I mean, there's a lot of graduation-related expenses in here, and, you know, if I thought about it. So just looking on page 1, right in the middle of the page, something, tuition reimbursement, we budget $55,000. This year, the actual is $81,000.
Where are you, Kathy? I'm sorry.
Budget to actual,
Okay.
on the bottom it says page 1 of 12.
Okay, thank you.
Right in the middle of the page,
Mhm.
Tuition reimbursement, it's 52700. It's the account code number.
Okay, thank you.
So tuition reimbursement, the budgeted 50,000, the actual is 81,208. You know, so that amount is over budget by 33,000. That's an item that we typically don't know how much to budget for, because we don't know who's going to take courses. I know some districts handle it differently. They have a pool, you know, first come, first served, or there's a lottery as to who gets the tuition reimbursement monies, but we don't. It's in the teacher contract that they get those courses.
Regardless of the budget.
Regardless of the budget.
It wasn't addressed in the contract.
What's the provision on this tuition reimbursement in the current contract?
Is it
What I was told.
3 courses?
What I was told, it's 3 contracts, it's 3 credits per semester, per half year.
So a total of 6 credits.
Six
What-
credit, so 6 credits a year for each teacher?
What I was told was that it never winds up to be the liability that's reflected in the budget, which is why I went, when I saw this number.
It always turns out to be more than the liability reflected in the budget.
So we're, in that contract, once again, I'm ignorant, I'm not trying to.
No, that's fine.
In that contract that, just been approved, that for 3 years, we're giving them 6 credits, we're reimbursing them for 6 credits a year,
6 UVM credits.
6 UVM credits
At
a
the
year.
cost of 6 UVM credits.
Right, not to exceed.
And that's been that way, that's been in the contract for quite a while.
Yeah,
Beth
that's
isn't here.
right.
Oh, That's been in the
So,
contract for quite a while.
Just
But-
new, totally new.
No, that's fine. But just, that's why I'm raising my eyebrows here, so you understand. I was told by the individual who knows the financials that that provision of the contract isn't financially a significant liability. So I'm becoming aware for the first time, looking at this, that I didn't hear that right.
Right, and I think anytime when we have that much of a difference, I mean, in any category, is something that needs to be financially looked at, okay? Because I think you have more control over something like that than you do on the special education because of the state mandates and stuff. Your hands are a little more tied. And as going back to what we were talking about with the big difference between last month's and this month, I mean, special ed doubled as far as the negative on that, so. But what I'm concerned with is that, that's a pretty good deal, you know, as far as 6 credits a year.
It is.
When, you know, some of us work for, you know, third largest employer of the state, and we don't get that. You understand what I'm saying?
Are you looking for an answer from me? Are you challenging me on it, or
I'm
what?
not challenging anybody.
Then I'm just listening
You understand
to
my, you understand my concern?
what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the requirements for the continuing the CEU's requirements for the teachers. I have no idea. I'm totally new in this experience. So I'm just going by the pure six UVM credits a year for each teacher.
I mean, a perspective on that is we want our teachers to be the best
Oh, I'm
that they
not
can
saying
be.
that. I agree.
And they are required to what choir? Is it 9 over?
9 over the course of a relicensure. It's currently 7, but it's moving down.
So
to
what's
5.
the course of a
It's
licensure?
9 credits over 7, but the licensing period is going to go down to 5.
Okay.
So it's changing from
Credits.
requiring
Is it
9
over?
credits
Yeah.
over 7 years to requiring 6 credits over
Over
5
5.
years for relicensure.
Yeah.
Right, and we're giving each teacher right now, you're 7 for 5, you said, right?
7,
So, it
9
used to be
credits
7
over
years.
7.
Yeah, 9 credits over 7 years.
But they get how many credits they have to have in 5 years now?
6.
6. And we've just given them 18 in 3.
But what we're learning, and what we're being told is
No, I'm
people
just
aren't
saying,
necessarily
I'm just
taking
saying
that.
that
It's
a
not,
lot do, and, you know, be honest with you, you know, the farmers from Patton are gonna look at this and say, you know, they do the simple math. You know, 18, you need 7 and 5. And you're getting 18 possible reimbursement credits in 3. You understand? I mean, I agree with what you mentioned. We want the best. I have no problem with that. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm glad that we do this. This is not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that it's something that was surprising to me. And I mean, I saw your look when you saw that it wasn't what you said, what you were told. And that's all. That's my concern.
I think the issue is one of budget.
Right.
And so perhaps the way to deal with this is to institute a process in which, and you know, now it's per contract, so this goes on the list for the next contract, there's gotta be a relationship to what's available in the budget.
Well, this one line item is a potential budget buster if every teacher availed themselves of the max. Now, we know that that's not gonna happen, but what we should do is we should say, okay, this is what you folks are allowed to do, but this is the ceiling of the money that can be spent there.
That's not necessarily what the contract says, but I would defer to, sorry. I really think that is a conversation for the superintendent's administration of the contract and not the board to sort of try and figure out right here and now at this table.
Oh, no, I didn't think we were gonna figure it out here, but I'm just building on his conversation.
Right.
That,
Yeah. The thing about this conversation is it's valuable and it's important, but it's getting us a little bit into a tangent. I mean, we could do this on numerous pieces
Absolutely. Sorry about
of the budget. And don't apologize. I mean, we all need to kind of learn about this stuff. We're all learning something new tonight. But I'm hopeful that the Finance Committee can be kind of teeing some of these issues up for us, so that, you know, the surprise factor is a little bit lesser in future months. Beth, did you have something burning you wanted to provide, or?
I was just gonna say that number is about 2.25 credits per teacher in the building over the course of this past year.
Right.
So it's not even a full graduate credit.
And
or
one
a
of-
full graduate course per teacher.
And one of the things that you pointed out, or one of the things Nancy pointed out quietly that this board didn't hear is it's, the contract speaks to or workshop equivalents. So if a teacher is asked to do a workshop, that would, whether or not they book it as their right to get those credits, if a teacher is asked to do a workshop, it would go in here. If Stephanie says, please go do this thing because we need you to represent the school at this thing, that wouldn't be Beth's 3 credits, however, that would be in this line.
Okay.
So that's,
All right.
you know, it's partially training as well.
So then, wouldn't we want to separate those so that we can see the difference?
They used to be.
It's definitely food for the financial committee to think about.
So it's 7:35. I'm mindful of the time.
Can I add one thing? We offer courses here, like we're offering a Google Tools for Schools. And, you know, we have maybe 10 or 15 of our teachers that have volunteered to take it. And that, so, you know, we want our teachers to be educated in certain areas, especially certain initiatives. This Google obviously is the Google platform, use it for technology integration, and they use their professional development that way. So we encourage that to a certain degree because it's good, it floats all boats.
Well, definitely.
Yeah, so.
Google should be
I'm
paying
all
us.
for CEUs. It's just that, like I said, we all have people back in our towns that are, you know, they're looking at things, and if they you know, bother to look through things, they're gonna see that, you know, they're having trouble paying their taxes, and yet this person's has this benefit. So this is what I was told.
Okay, so Jay, did you have something quick you wanted to add or not?
It'd be interesting to see what that number has been in past years too. Have we underspent in past
Yeah.
years and now we're overspending, and you know, how does that balance? No, so it's always been over. So I mean, that's something else to look at. You know, what are we budgeting for? You know,
Yeah.
Well, no,
are we
that's
gonna allow more, or, you know, or are we gonna say anyway?
I think this is just from myself. I think it's just one example of the line items that the financial committee may want to look at, not only because of the difference in the cost, but as this gentleman pointed out, we probably should, so we have a better understanding, separate CEUs from workshop, you know, that they're being mandated to go to, you know.
Okay,
So
so I
that's,
need a little clarification.
that's a
maybe
little
bit-
further under the hood than I think we need
Yeah,
to
I
get
know.
on this topic.
So,
Yeah,
how about you email me, because I don't
okay.
quite understand what you're saying. Would you mind?
I guess not.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Are you good? Are you
Yeah.
good, Kathy?
We're fine. I guess we're good.
Childers.
Lori, anything to add?
No, thank you.
All right, I'm just trying to
No,
make
I'm
it
sorry.
not a marathon tonight. We can do it. I didn't announce it at the beginning, but I had this internal goal of 2 hours. We haven't done it in so many months.
All right.
45 minutes now.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Okay, so Kathy, you're all set?
For now.
All right, very good. So, we do not have a Hannaford Career Center report because we do not have the representative from Hannaford. So we'll move to the approval of bills and director's orders.
I will move that we approve those bills and orders so that we can get to the point of discussion.
In the amount of?
In the amount of $2,267,166.98.
That's a big number tonight.
That's awful big.
Second.
Thank you, Jeff.
Discussion?
Discussion.
I handed a bill to Stephanie that bothers me tremendously. It says that our elevator in this building is out of compliance and has been since 12. And I can't understand that. If you read the very bottom of the bill, the last line, it says we've been out of compliance since 2012. How can we, they normally shut down elevators that are out of compliance more than 90 days.
I'm reading this to say that as of July 1st, 2012, this is a ruling that's gone into effect. I don't think it's saying, I don't interpret it as saying that we've been out of compliance since 2012. It's saying that, it does say that we're, It says, your conveyance is not in compliance, contact us once violations have been corrected, but I'm not sure that's linked to the 2012 date, but I took a picture of it to show to
Okay.
our Director of Buildings and Grounds, so I can ask him about that.
It's,
We've had ongoing problems with our elevator, I know that, for
I-
sure.
I'm aware that there was some problem with it, but I didn't realize that we were running out of compliance. I mean, if, just think of the potential. If we're not in compliance and a student gets in that elevator and it fails and they're, even if they're just trapped for a while, that can be a traumatic event. And that can lead to other monetary issues.
Yep.
So,
I got a picture of it, I will send it to Mr. Worley, tonight and address it tomorrow. Would you like an email with the result of this? Or a
that would
follow-up?
be nice.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
What are the big drivers this month? I'm assuming we're repaying something?
Something big in there.
The tax anticipation note of $1,850,000.
Okay.
So that's the borrowing that's done in the summer.
So
that
that's the
we're-
borrowing that we're going to do,
I
right.
get that
So
goes,
we'll
unless you want to hold on to it. that
So
goes back to
$1.8 million is the repayment.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So,
So absent the $1.8 million, we're.
it's a normal month.
Relative.
Ish.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I was just looking at these for the finance committee direction, and I also wondered, there's a expense in here for Negley and Chase, and in here, in the budget to actual, we also have the construction. Section, this is bond money, yes?
That's right, yes,
So, this doesn't have to do with the budget,
that's correct.
and this doesn't have to do with the budget.
That's correct.
Thank you, that's what I
But it's a
wanted.
bill of our school, so we have to pay it.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Yeah, but shouldn't it come out as something different?
So it's a capital cost, not an operating cost. I don't know if there's any segregation in the way this is presented.
It should be.
It depends
the
on
way
the
which is
account.
presented. The way the
The
bills
bills.
are presented, it's one total.
Okay.
But you know the difference. You can,
So it's Fund 4, so if you're looking at the financial,
Right.
it's not in the general fund, it's not included in anything here that is in the projection that I gave you.
this
So-
is on page 11 of
Okay,
12.
this is good.
So page 11 of 12 is Fund 4, so we've already spent $752,000.
Does that include repaying the roof?
That includes the roof,
Cool.
some of the roof, I'm just trying to think.
that
Construction,
would
no, so
include-
this is, yeah, so this only includes expenses since July 1. So it includes some of the roof, not all the roof. So we have incurred, does that
We're
make
catching up.
sense? So we have some expenses that go back into a prior year.
Well, the 556,665 is the roof.
Yeah.
Right. And then the other stuff, the architect's fees and stuff, that's the catch-up that we
That's
have
all
to do
the
on
stuff.
top.
Where,
yeah.
what's the roof? I'm sorry?
556,665. So on page 11, you'd be looking
Contractor.
at 54,500.
Okay, thank you. Oh. I was looking at the account number and you're talking about a dollar number.
I'm sorry.
That's why I was so confused. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the bills?
Go ahead.
It just seems as long as we have a construction account ongoing here, that the bills should come in two piles, a construction pile and an operational pile. I realize that requires a little more work, but it allows us to keep our fingers on what is happening with the construction.
Are they presented, Kathy, in the packet? There's always lots of,
They're mixed together.
You
so
They're mixed.
We could
we
pull
could-
them
we could
apart rather
separate
than having
them.
her pull them apart, because the first three numbers are
004.
indicate where they go. I hesitate to give any more work to her.
But, I'll need to submit a copy of every single bill to the bond bank anyway.
So you'll have them separated, is that what
Yes.
you're
yes.
I sort of tend to agree with George that I'd like, it'd be nice just to be
Okay.
able to look at the ongoing process, unless that's something facilities committee would rather do kinda.
I think the board should
Independently.
be aware, it's all manipulating the same numbers, you're gonna
Yeah,
report it out.
that's
We're
fine.
gonna be looking at it on a
That's
monthly
fine.
basis as part of oversight of the project, so.
Okay. Maybe for next month?
In August? Sure.
Yeah, the next monthly meeting.
Yes.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Very good. So, quite a few other steps to get through here tonight. Approval of fall coaches. So we have a list of the fall coach recommendations from Peter.
I would make a motion to approve the list as presented dated June 4th with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 positions listed. Okay. Sorry, 8 positions listed. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You got 2 names under one. Oh, okay.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Yes. To go back to our health initiatives that was approved by the board, there was requirements for people that were certified in order to get credit for the time spent. Are these people certified?
Peter?
Certified in what?
The health initiative that was passed by the board included language that said that for the minutes to count toward the minutes that were listed on that sheet, that it had to be a certified physical instructor for that activity.
Nobody on that list is a certified physical education teacher, if that's your
Okay,
question.
so that means that none of these minutes can count toward those.
I have no idea, I'm not sure what the requirement of what the certification is for the.
Remember, I asked that very specific question of Ed. And I
Okay.
said, how does the team sports work with
Mhm.
respect to counting? And
Okay.
there's a certain number of credits that students get for participating in sports, and they
Prove a
count.
credit up
Okay.
to.
But they don't, these are coaches for team sports or for our sports. These aren't professional gym teachers that we're hiring here.
That,
And we're not gonna find coaches that are gonna be our professional gym teachers.
Don't get me
so.
wrong, I'm just, people bought into these minutes, and I'm trying to see how these minutes are actually being counted.
But as Ed pointed out, that each kid gets a credit, or whatever point something for
Right.
each team they play on.
Right.
Those credits, that point whatever there is a formula to figure out what that would translate into time. Am I reaching here, or am I correct on that?
I mean, right now, we're aligning, seat time it feeds into Carnegie units, and that's a credit. So
Okay.
we allow
Seat
0.25, well, that's what we call
I
it,
know, no, I
so
know,
it's,
I know. I
X
see.
number of hours equals a credit.
So it's
I think it's 0.25 a season.
A
Up
season.
to a maximum of 1 credit.
for the whole year.
For your whole 4 years.
For your whole 4 years.
Half a credit for sports, so take your daughter, she's gonna get half a credit for soccer, half a credit for softball.
Okay.
She can earn 1 full PE credit throughout her high school career.
Okay.
Yeah.
When they're taking sports, they can still take a PE class though, correct?
Yeah, they still have to take half a credit of physical education in the classroom.
Yeah, and a health credit.
So every kid, every student is given a half credit a year, because you said they have to take phys ed that's a half credit.
If it's not every year, it depends on when they take it, and you can get, like, say, half a credit a year or whatever, I mean.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, it goes back to the last month's with the disagreement that George and I had about the wording of it, as far as it. He's pointing out the fact that it's still ridiculous to have that large number, and my point is that the number really doesn't matter because the wording is that we would try to achieve it, and that's what this is all about. So, but the fact is that kids get credit for playing sports.
Up
Whatever
to 1 credit.
Whatever, but that can be translated into minutes of educational, and therefore, if it's up to one PE credit, therefore it's quote-unquote supervised by Ed, because he's one, I'm just using, he's the only one I know. So therefore, that 1 credit, whatever it comes out to be in far as time-wise, can go towards the 200 something that we are trying to achieve.
Minutes,
Correct?
Yeah. We're gonna be moving away from Carnegie units anyways, and then it's.
But once again, it achieves our
Yeah.
wording
Yep.
of our health
Yep.
initiative that is trying to achieve it.
Mhm.
Not necessarily making it, but making an attempt to do so.
Any further questions on the coach list?
I'm just wondering, is this the same coach list, the potential coach list that we got, I don't know, a couple of meetings ago?
You probably got the winter one with
Yeah,
the.
Oh, that's, okay, so that's why.
We got the spring one.
We do this pretty consistently.
Yeah.
So
We got
this
the
is
spring.
the fall, this is for next school year.
Thank you. That's what I said. Thank you.
We still have a couple more to go if anybody's interested. Jeff, I know you got soccer experience, JV soccer.
All those in favor?
All in favor?
There you go. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote on this.
Aye.
All those in favor? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, approval of deficit note document.
Okay, so I finally have the refunding note for the FY13 deficit. So it's for $545,990. It's due October 1st, 2014, at a rate of 1.25%. And actually, the bank is going to take this. I'm trying to think what they're going to do. They're going to put this into our account on the day that the $1,850,000 check clears, is presented.
The $1,850,000 check.
Yes.
Which-
But the tax anticipation note.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
We need a motion.
We need a motion.
Yes.
So-
I'll make the motion to approve a borrowing in the amount of $545,990
Yes.
in order to fund the FY 2013 deficit.
We haven't already, I thought we already moved that. We hadn't already moved that.
Well, we're moving to
Execute.
execute the
sign the
document.
Sorry, you need a second.
I'll second the motion.
There we go.
But you said this, I'm sorry, can we go to discussion?
Please.
You said this is repayable in October of this year?
Yes. So, we are paying it out of, our FY15 budget.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have our tax anticipation note. We receive an influx of funds in September.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought October would be an appropriate time to pay it off.
And the quicker we pay it off, the less interest we pay.
Exactly, at 1.25% for,
Yeah.
3 months. What I would point out for the record, in the draft audit we received at our May 12th meeting, that's what I was looking at when I made that motion, and the number, the amount of the borrowing for this note ties precisely to the reconciliation that's listed on page 8 of that draft audit.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out. That's good.
All right, so oops,
So we
you gonna
got a
move it?
motion, a second. Any additional discussion? You need signatures from,
Everyone in
Okay.
3 places.
all right.
And 2 spots, the clerk signs in a special spot.
Okay.
Okay.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good, ayes have it. Thank you.
I wonder if it goes this way first.
Fine with me.
Okay, renewal of food service contract.
So it's time for the annual renewal of the food service contract, and this would be, the third year, that we are renewing with, Cafe Services. And this will be signed, by Kurt later in the week, but, we do need to approve it. And actually, Lynn is here, if we have any, questions for her.
So let's get a motion on the
Okay.
floor to approve the contract.
Okay.
Mentioned, thank you. Lori? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to point out, so that there's and I should have made copies, there is a little budget here that they've presented to us that they guarantee, and it is pretty much break even. They're telling us, that we'll have a profit of $336. In a little while, we are going to vote to increase the prices, and I have asked them for a new budget, but I have not received it yet, based on, some small price increases for lunch and breakfast, and also the adult meals. And I know Lynn and there's been discussions about the à la carte offerings, because some of them have a lesser nutritional value than some of our other offerings, but they are high profit items. So they contribute to the profit.
Those two go together.
Yes, yes, of course they do. So I think we're going to ask for some profitable, for them to provide to us some, how profitable are the chicken patties or whatever it is, and versus the hot lunch, the regular meal that's served, is that profitable or not? And how does that look?
Was there any competitive bid on this, or was this just a slide across the table deal?
Slide across the table deal.
Slide across the table there. Our original contract had a renewability clause for how long?
So it's a 5-year with 5 1-year renewals.
Okay.
So this is the
Okay.
third year.
This is the third renewal year?
Yes.
Okay.
So George, there was a big process that played out under Rick Kirshner's leadership.
Mhm.
Probably 4 years ago, Lynn was involved in that, in order to select this particular contractor. So.
And we're happy with them,
And
obviously, if we're renewing.
They fund Lynn's position as the what? As
They call it farm to school.
They call it farm to school. I think we call it
Nutrition liaison.
Nutrition
in the
liaison.
budget.
And I think just to clarify, 4 years ago, when it was open for bid, the Abbey group that was in before was in that similar situation where year after year it was just kind of a slide through, and there was a group of people who wanted it to just be open for bid, just to see what else came of that. And it was shockingly, it was shocking to come into both of those interviews where I really, thought that the Abbey group would come in very prepared, and they were not prepared at all. And Cafe Services really stepped up and at least in the interview process, really, put their money where their.
And I think in all fairness, there was really only the one choice for a long time.
But
And
it's.
it's similar now, where there's not a whole lot of companies,
Mhm.
food service contract management companies out there that are savvy enough, have that background to come
Mhm.
in and take over.
It just sounds like what you're saying is that it was a very valuable process that got better nutrition or a better deal for the school or the students.
Most of those things.
I just have a little problem with this slide along because we're eliminating that possibility.
I mean, as a recommendation, halfway through the process now, I would say it is time to have Cafe Services be held a little bit more accountable in maybe throughout the year of reporting. It's the numbers that happen, if it was within the school, the food service company right now, we would have those numbers at just, you know, a fingertip away, whereas now it's not as easily accessible to know, you know, beyond this one page, where really, what are the numbers, to see if it is really working. And to see, I think too, you know, it's one thing to have a menu that they follow, and right now there's people behind the scenes to provide that. But I would be interested to see those menus and really see if they are meeting the requirements, and then even maybe go beyond that and see if production records back up that those menus are really being followed. Because it's those types of places that could slip, and then the students are yeah, not getting the best quality.
So I'm, as myself on this board and not sitting here as running this particular meeting, I think that this year we should move this contract forward, but I think that next year we should do some process around it. And I'd like to have a conversation about relocalizing some of that. Because there are other schools that have really well-regarded cafeteria folks, and people are loving the food, and I'm not hearing the same level of love about our system here. We're about to build a brand-new kitchen to allow us to do all sorts of new things, maybe. I mean, a kitchen is a kitchen, but still, if we're gonna create a new kitchen, maybe it's an opportunity to revision that. You know, Lynn, you're all plugged into the sort of local, what we can get locally and who's doing what. And mindful that your salary is supported by this contract, but that's something that can be cooked into any contract, cooked.
And,
so,
you know, the women that are running that kitchen right now, even though they are with cafe services, that it's a really good group in there. Jo Allen is running, you know, she's doing a phenomenal job with what she has, and I would love to see that, entertaining that idea of just looking at it a little bit more, you know, with the idea of, yeah, could it be shifted a little bit, you know, yeah.
So maybe in a couple of, or 3 board meetings or something, and before we're in the throes of budget, again, we could actually have a little bit more dedicated conversation about what the board might want to do with you to support some tweaks.
You covered what my point was.
Yeah. Any additional?
So 2 points of clarification. I just want to understand what I heard, that there was a competitive process, there was a commitment for 5 years, but it is a series of 1-year contracts. Well, no, I want to clarify that. Does that mean we've already been through the 5 years and there are 5 subsequent 1-year renewals? Okay, so it was a 5-year proposals with a series of 1-year contracts. Okay.
Yeah, with the thought of, yes.
Okay, that makes a big difference in terms of what we've heard. So it's, George, it's not a slide along. This is consistent with what the original proposal was, which was for a 5-year period with a series of 1-year contracts.
Right.
That's what we're doing. So it's
Right.
not
And this is the
outside
5th
the
year.
This is the 3rd year.
This is the 3rd year. So that's important for me to understand that difference. And the second is, Lynn, you've done great work on the wellness policy. I think there's a culture that's being created here with a focus on it. I think Ferrisburg Elementary School set a very high standard of what can happen. I think I am speaking for the board. It's what I've heard. That's the direction we should be going here.
Yep.
So it's, frankly, speaking for me, it's less about cost. I'm having a hard time wanting to support a contract that's based on making money by selling French fries. We shouldn't be making money selling French fries in this school. That's
Thank you for saying that.
my opinion. Okay.
You've got a,
I just have a question. I remember being here when that whole contract went out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things Cafe Services said was that the program I mean, but
They've made
didn't
sure-
exactly live up to what they told us 3 years ago, in terms of, it was gonna turn a profit, and by selling french fries, frankly.
Well, and I think that, you know, the changes in the new regulations makes that super challenging, I think, for most of the schools, but yes, there is a lot of, accountability that can be followed up on, and, yeah, it just would be, again, nicer to see a little bit more numbers than this one page to really assess it.
Frankly, most food service programs don't make a lot of money, but if we're gonna lose money or break even, can we make it much better food than what we got now? Not to knock what they're doing, I know they're working
Yeah,
at it bit by bit, but it could be better.
Well, I think that's the theme that you're hearing around the table. Certainly mine, when I say relocalize in the Ferrisburg model, and, yeah.
Is 1-year renewals, could you actually choose each year to put it out to bid? Does the contract allow that?
No,
No,
It
it's
does.
5 years.
I mean, we could, if we found fault, probably not negligence, but if we, I mean, I think we have some influence onto the french fries and the chicken patties. I think the bigger question is, we probably wouldn't still break even if we said no more french fries, no more pizza, no more this or that, ice cream or whatever.
How much, so how much are they running in the hole?
For,
This says that they're gonna make money, but what is their current status this year? Are they at budget, or are they
they will make
losing
sure
money?
that it's on budget. I mean, they make money, they receive a $16,000 service fee.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that the other items, some of these items, insurance, there are some items here that I think probably have a markup before we get them.
Mm-hmm. You said that you thought that they were losing money.
I think maybe I was thinking of last year it lost money, but what you're saying is they make sure that they basically break even, but how do they accomplish that?
Right.
Like, what do they do? Do
Right,
they
exactly.
serve meals?
I think they might adjust their fees. They might adjust their fees, and I think there are hidden fees in here.
So we can.
And I would think we wanna know.
and
what's going
let's,
on.
I mean, I just wanna clarify too, that I don't think it's malicious, anyone in the kitchen is doing I think it's completely out of their realm of even any of this thought process. I think it's all what's happening at that administrative, behind the scenes, wherever they're based out of, that yes, I think that they, that could be a possibility of, without seeing the numbers more closely, knowing exactly what's going on.
So this conversation, if anybody from the food service group is paying attention, serves notice. And I would like to know, maybe next time we meet, whether in fact this is a 5-year contract renewable annually, or whether this is a 5-year contract that we must approve annually, because otherwise I don't see why we're approving it if we approved it 5 years ago and it's a 5-year contract and that's it. So I think there must be some sort of clause in there that allows us to have a conversation.
I would think.
So, there should be time to do that.
Yeah, during that time frame, if there was any discrepancies, we could immediately open it up for, at least that's the thought that I had.
So.
Well, the game is changing, there's better food out there than there was 3 years ago, available locally in a real-time basis, so.
So, are you advocating that we table the acceptance of this until we get more information?
I'm not. No.
It sounded that way.
Nope, I'm not.
I think the question is, do we have any ability under the contract structure to influence what's being served? If we don't, I don't know why we're having the conversation.
Agreed.
If we have the ability to have some influence, I think there's a consensus among the board, and I don't know that I have the correct language. I'll do it in very broad terms. We'd like to see a menu that's in alignment with the wellness policy that's just been adopted, and which has a focus on local ingredients. can we have our motion reflect that and leave it to administration to see if there's some leverage to achieve those outcomes?
I'm in the cafeteria every day for middle school lunch duty. And I'm hearing what you're saying, and, you know, I fed my family in a different way. You know, we have a captive audience in the school lunch program, which, you know, a teacher can go to Subway or the Chinese restaurant or something and order food, but our students are a captive audience. And I'm particularly, you know, right now I'm talking about middle school students. We have a certain percentage of free and reduced lunch kids, and I see time and time and time again students grab the same options. And it's not because that's all that's there. It's that is what they've are accustomed to eating. It is the chicken patty, the prepared hamburger, the slice of pizza. We're lucky if they'll grab a milk to accompany that. And it's there is a certain amount. Yeah, we can educate students to be more experimental in their food choices and their tastes, and we do that. You know, we've walked around with the kale chips, and some kids will take it, and the roasted. But you know, there's a belief, and especially with the people who are serving our food and preparing our food. And I know Lynn and I talk about this all the time. And we see both sides of it. You know, the kids have to eat too. So we could just say, okay, no more of those items, and we'd have a lot of kids that would, for a long, long time, refuse to eat. They would choose not to eat. They wouldn't eat. They wouldn't eat lunch. And so we're balancing that need of knowing that we need to put food in their bellies so they can continue with the afternoon. And you know, Lynn has probably thought about it more. You know, I just see. I don't know what the answer is, but.
My suggestion would be we don't exist in a vacuum, and we need to look at what our colleagues are doing, because this same issue has arisen in other districts, and somehow they've broken through.
Yep.
Well, and I've had experience in 6 different districts, and in every single one of those districts, there are still those what we call a la carte items now that exist. To a certain degree. Yeah, I think that we can do a lot with educating our kids and increasing their tolerance for new and varied foods. But I really don't think, and I'm saying it in public, I don't think we're going to get rid of the chicken, some semblance of the chicken patty, the hamburger, the slice of pizza. We can make those items more healthy, but. Yes, there's room for improvement, but there's going to be something that looks like that always, just to meet their needs.
I know. Christina gets the last word.
Just a couple of things. Does anybody know what the participation rate of our student body in terms of buying lunch every day? And that is a key factor in the whole money-making aspect of things. So I was just curious about that.
There's definitely a lot of factors, for sure.
And I would think that you would want to, you know, start with how are they spending our money? And how's it all shaken out in that, whatever it is, 200, and what does that mean? And then work from there.
Jeff, did you have a friendly amendment that you wanted to make to the motion?
I would just add the sense of the board that we try to align the menu with our adopted wellness policy, and that there be a focus on increasing, to the extent possible, the delivery of locally produced foods.
Very good. That can be communicated back, I'm sure, along with the contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Adjustment of lunch prices.
So I know there are some new board members here, so I'll explain the lunch price conundrum. 3 or 4 years ago, the USDA came out and said, you know, the cost to provide the meal
we're not even charging students the cost to provide the meal, and we would like for you to come up to increase your meal prices to approximate a certain number that changes with inflation annually.
Mm-hmm.
So the USDA has come up with this number, and from that number, they have subtracted the value of commodities, the per meal value of commodities that we receive, less the amount that we receive in subsidy, and we receive, so this is for the paid meal, for the student that does not qualify for free or reduced. So there is still a very small subsidy that we receive for paid meals. So you subtract that, and you come up to a number that is around $2.60.
Mm-hmm.
$2.70, somewhere around there. I'm just trying to think. Actually, it must be higher because we're increasing our prices. Anyway, it's a number that's around $3.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being, so we've been increasing our meal prices by 10 cents, 25 cents, whatever per year, so that we can get up to this around a $3. And of course it goes up by pennies every year. So it was $2.89, then it was $2.90 something, and so it's increasing with inflation.
So what are we charging now?
So now for lunch we are charging $2.50 for students, and the recommendation is to go up to $2.75. The recommendation for breakfast, it's to go from $1.50 to $1.75. And the breakfast prices have not changed in a long time, as have the adult prices. The only price that we are mandated to increase on an annual basis is the lunch price. So breakfast from $1.50 to $1.75. Adult breakfast from $2 to $2.25. Adult lunch from $3.50 to $3.75.
So I'd entertain a motion to increase those 4 categories of lunches by 25 cents each. I got that right?
Yep.
Second.
I need a motion.
Oh, so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Further discussion?
Where does the money go? Is that what's reflected on the income side of the budget for the food service contract that we just discussed?
So it does go in there, but I think I said earlier that they have not provided me with a new budget yet. So I'd be excited to see how much extra this is going to generate in revenues to the bottom line, because it should only show up in revenue. It shouldn't show up in expense.
Right.
Same number of meals.
Right.
So it should only show up in revenue, and I'd like to see what that number is.
And that's going to be reflective of how many meals are being sold.
Exactly, but you know, is this extra 25 cents for every meal? Is that you know, what is that? How much is it? Is it 1,000? Is it a couple thousand? Is it money that we could use to buy more local foods with? You know, what is it?
Liquidate the accrued deficit
Liquidate the accrued deficit.
for food service that's been carried forward for
Right.
years,
For years
and years.
Yes.
And then take and mandate the healthy foods and eliminate the ones that are giving the profit that are not healthy. I mean, this is all a big wheel that's gonna take us a while to get all the way around, but, yeah. Okay.
Okay, I need some clarification. So this increase in price goes into their coffers? Because this doesn't come to us.
Okay, wait.
Is that correct?
Wait. All the revenues come to us.
All the revenues come to us,
And,
okay.
and the,
Oh, and then we pay them.
and then we pay them the expenses.
Okay.
So it has here, just for example, I'm just rounding the dollars, that the total cost of the contract is $240,000. So we'll pay that to them in 10 installments.
Okay, thank you. Right.
all of the revenues come to us.
Okay, thank you.
Any,
To clarify, there's no impact of this proposed cost increase on any student who qualifies for free or reduced.
That's correct.
Reduced as well. There's
That's
no
correct.
increase.
And reduced is now free, so, yes.
right.
Okay.
In Vermont only.
Actually, I have a question too. I just learned today about an alternative to offering free and reduced lunch, which has to do with community rating instead. If your community has over X% of free and reduced, then essentially you can get money through Title I to offer your entire food service gratis to everybody.
So we don't qualify.
Okay. That was my question. Or that's the answer to the question I didn't
I
ask.
already checked into that.
Yeah.
Now, we could possibly qualify if there were more people filling out those forms. We only know who is qualified for free and reduced if they turn in those forms.
Ah, but that was the
or
gist.
Qualified via.
That was the gist of the story, is there are other metrics that can be used that are actually not necessarily metrics that are even maintained by the school, right? But you checked.
I checked and we don't qualify.
Okay, fair enough.
Just thought
I know, but, I know, I mean, there are
I
programs.
mean, it wouldn't simplify
that-
things.
Vision.
Yeah, there are programs, that, it's the same type of thing, you get it free, but you're required, for every student is required to return the paperwork. And when that happens, they feel that cost of the increased qualified students covers the cost of the program.
Any further discussion? Call for a
Move
vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. First of the two added action items, the approval of bond documents.
Okay, so I have bond documents here. I do not have the commitment letters are being mailed out tomorrow. And there is a 1-week window to sign and return the commitment letters, of which Kurt is aware that,
Is he the signatory or is the
that
board?
the board chair is the signatory on that. I've already checked. So I have the bond documents. There are 4 documents. There is a loan agreement. There is a resolution and certificate. There is a tax certificate. There is the bond itself. And these all need, let me look at my instructions. So we probably need a motion to accept them.
Okay.
There are
What's the dollar amount?
$2.8 million. And you need
What's
to,
the rate?
it's not sold yet, so, we don't have a rate. So the way a bond works is there are each annual, so this is 20 years of $140,000 a year. Each $140,000 increment is a separate investment that somebody might make. So it's a separate pool, so there'll be 20 separate investments that will be sold by the bond bank. So we don't have the rates until those are sold. And it's not uncommon for all 20 of them to have a different rate.
Interesting.
So then, how do we know that we
so
wanted
could
to
I-
do a bond for a certain rate? How do we have an idea that this would be the best vehicle for us to borrow money
Chris?
if we don't have a rate?
Time out, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the bond documents.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
So, I mean, like, we decided that we wanted to bond because we would know that it's gonna be at some general rate, but how did we come to that conclusion if they have to sell them before they determine what they are? Is there some guarantee that it's not gonna be, $10 dollars
10%.
per, yeah?
Well, we looked at the past history
Mhm.
of what those rates were.
Okay.
But
and
rates change daily.
Rates change daily, yes, they do.
And they moved, I mean, if we were able to move this last year, we would have been in a better position.
So for a 20-year investment, for a 20-year loan, really, the bond bank is the only place that we could go for a 20-year loan.
And what was last month's rate, if we were
I don't
to
know.
have
I
issued
mean,
this
I think
last
we
month?
were looking at 2% or two and a quarter.
Mhm.
I mean, we just signed that deficit note at 1 1/4, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
In that, the rates are also connected with our credit history, I would assume, as our
Oh, yeah,
rating.
gotta be.
Well, the state of Vermont, so this is a state of Vermont general obligation bond.
Oh, okay, so it's
The
not
state's
ours.
covering us.
It's not ours in particular.
Okay, that helps.
So may I put a finer point on the motion?
Please.
That the motion is to authorize the chair to execute all documents associated with the borrowing? We're not.
How's that working?
So
Is that
these,
correct?
yes, you are. So these, all of these require the signature of the board.
They do, okay.
They
I'm
do,
sorry.
yeah.
Thought
There
you
are
said
some, so the commitment letter will only require the signature of the board chair. And that's the one that I'm getting this week, and I have 5 days to return that.
So Jeff, is your intent, you'd like to make sure that that is covered so that Kurt has, fundamentally cover from the board to sign it? So could I offer a friendly amendment to your motion that we approve the bond documents and authorize the chair to execute any additional documents as needed for the $2.8 million offering?
That's,
Right.
that's clarification. She's writing fast.
Okay, so the resolution and certificate require all the bonds, all the directors, the tax certificate. So these 3 items require all of the directors to sign.
Good? Any additional? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Okay, now, if you see a blank that's a date or some other blank, do not fill it in. That will be filled in at the date of the sale.
Do you want to actually do you want to oversee the
So maybe
signing
we'll
of
do
these
this
after when we're done?
Maybe we'll do
Just to
that.
make
That
sure
would
that
be
the
great.
order is right?
Yes, that would be great, so that nobody slips and puts in a date or
Right.
something. Okay, all right.
Okay, last action item will be, where are we? Construction application papers.
Okay, so, even though there is no construction aid, I have to apply for it as if there is aid, and only because, if it's approved, then these costs are exempted from the high-cost spending calculation.
Ah,
So if
very
we
good.
were ever to be close
good.
to the high-cost threshold, we could eliminate the bond payment.
okay,
Okay.
understood. I'll entertain a motion to sign the construction application papers.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. So we'll add that to the stack for orderly
Sure, we
execution.
can do that, yes.
Okay, policy matters, acceptable use policy. I know that this one's been through a couple of the boards. I had the pleasure of hearing it presented as a first reading at the elementary school board. Don't ask me why I was there. I'd like to actually, Gloria, is there a need to move that tonight?
Because it won't be,
Mercifully.
I would like to suggest that we defer this to August, and that, our new superintendent have the opportunity to become familiar with this policy.
so moved.
No, we don't need a motion for that, I'm just
Okay.
chair's prerogative, or vice chair's prerogative. Okay, so 2 final items here. We have 2 personnel actions. One is a request for a leave of absence from Kara Griswold. Tom is recommending the authorization of that leave of absence for 1 year. Recall that she is going to be serving as the new head of special education at the district level. Is there anything else on this one? The second is the resignation of co-principal Ed Webley. We do not yet have a letter in front of us, but I guess we are being recommended to accept that resignation. I would say with regret, but we don't have a letter in front of us.
Can't do it without a letter, can you? I don't think so.
He has submitted one to Tom, I just didn't have it here tonight to bring to the board. It was
That's
on-
sticky.
It's on email.
Is it a
Okay.
problem to defer his resignation until August? I mean,
It could be for
can't-
him.
Why?
If he takes employment starting July 1st in
Yeah.
a
He
different
He can't sign
district.
another contract. And I
There
assume
is
he
a
has.
letter, it's
You have
on
it?
Tom's email that I could not bring to me.
And we've acted, you know, we needed the resignation in order to act on filling the
ad.
interim, so.
Right. So
can
you need us to accept the resignation, which we understand has been tendered to you, or to you.
To Tom.
To Tom.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be to you.
Why did he do that?
Why
He
not?
understands this process.
I'm guessing he's busy with some other things that are.
He did submit it, it's
Took a
just, I didn't get it from Tom
Yeah.
to bring to the meeting.
Where do you want to start? You mentioned two items.
Let's go Kara first. Hmm?
I move that we accept the leave of absence.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so she's taking, is it because she's taking the other job, the new title on? Is that the reason for the need of absence from her current title for the year? Or is she gonna be gone from the district for the year?
She's asking for a leave of absence from the high school
From the high school.
as her special educator.
To go to the
Okay.
district.
To do the director's position.
Okay, got it. Wanted to make sure I understood
Yeah.
that.
Now, can anybody answer what happens with her position that she's
Yeah,
vacating
I was
here
gonna
from the
ask
high
that
school?
Also,
We're filling it with a
.7.
with a .7 position. This past year, she's been half-time director of student services or special ed and half-time special educator with a one-year only position. That person's been asked back to I mean, we'll continue on as the .5 that she has been doing, and because someone else is moving into another role for .2, it actually increased to .7. So we're just shifting some tenths of a point. So that person will stay on as essentially another year of 1 year only .5. Well, the .5 is the 1 year only because that's Kara's portion of that. And the .2, I guess I'm not exactly sure that status, but if that also continues, that's offering some reading support with a special ed license in the area of reading literacy, or a reading specialist with a license, by a licensed special educator. So that's that .2.
So the administration is asking us to do, you want us to grant
Yes,
this,
yeah,
is that correct?
the administration supports these requests.
So, go ahead, George.
The job that she's moving into with the district is a one-year position.
No, it's a
Then-
one-year contract, but she's asking just in case this is something that she decides after the 1 year that it's not what she wants to do, she
Okay.
can come back to this position.
It's a big job. She's stepping into director of special ed, or in other student services, pre-K through 12 in the district. She's been doing it on a 7 through 12 basis, and she's shared the job with Betty, who's leaving also. So I think she just wants to make sure she has the skills necessary to do the job justice.
Okay.
And then we want her back if it's not working out for her at that next level of game.
Yes.
Okay. I had the same.
Yeah, we actually approved her move into that job at the supervisory meeting a couple of months ago. Yeah, okay.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, thank you. And move to accept Ed's resignation, or motion to accept Ed's resignation.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Ed Webley as principal with regret and sincere appreciation for his years of service.
Second that.
Any additional, I'm just making sure you get it.
Okay.
Any additional discussion? Just want to echo your sentiments very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You're aye. Okay. Motion passes. Are there any discussion items? Jay?
Committee question. Chris came to the parent group meeting and was talking about the committee that he's on, and you were talking about meeting in July for the finance committee, and just wondering, are there plans to get, because there were a lot of questions about what that committee's doing, and.
Yep.
you know,
That's another thing we talked about.
yeah.
We've been working on figuring out the structure, kind of what we're looking potentially to bring together, and then we'll set a meeting date and we'll spread the word. But we haven't quite come to that exact thinking or thought of exactly how we want to roll this out just yet.
And I was hoping for July for that also. Or we were hoping for July.
Yeah, we're shooting for July.
We are. Yeah.
Okay, no need for an executive session tonight?
Not that I'm aware of.
Nope. Okay. Our next meeting dates, we will probably look to schedule a special meeting for borrowing in July. That's customary.
So
Do you
Mayor
need to do that right now?
Yes, Mayor, recommend July 1st at 7:45 a.m.
July 1st.
So
You're going to
Tuesday.
pull me
Is that
from
a
my
Tuesday?
That's
vacation.
Tuesday morning.
Okay.
Whoa.
That meeting will occur at the central office. It is a 5-minute meeting.
July 1st at 7:45.
Not if this board has anything to do.
Oh, come on, hey.
But, so
I,
then it's a 10-minute
it takes
meeting,
me,
right?
Jeff, it takes me another hour to run a marathon. We're doing all right. We're doing better than we have in months tonight. And that's just because we don't have a lot of contentious issues, so.
We just have to all put our John Henry down. And she's got the boards lined right up in a row like
So
duck
George
pins.
is already coming at 7:30 for
Yep.
Ferrisburg,
Yep.
so. Well, so will
Okay,
there be
very good.
a majority that can attend that meeting?
Is that gonna work?
Yes, yeah,
I'll
okay.
be there already.
All right.
7:45, you said, right?
Yes,
Okay.
AM at the central
Yep.
office.
Can I go back to an earlier issue? Or thing we were talking about? We were talking about the audit being completed, and I understand it's all funneling through you, and that's, do you have any idea when you might be able to get them what they need?
I will say that we've been preparing for a large federal audit tomorrow. And then, and I did talk to Jesse, and I promised him Wednesday morning, this is what I'm looking at,
Okay.
getting to him, and that's my priority.
So Wednesday morning, you hope to have time to
I've
get
already
all the work
spoke
done?
to Jesse that that's what,
So you're hoping this week?
yes, I'm hoping this week.
This week,
I'm
okay.
hoping this week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so, with that, August 11th, 6 PM is our next regular board meeting. No further discussion. We are adjourned.